Here is something that almost nobody is framing correctly, and once you see the full picture, it is going to reframe everything you thought you knew about where Cletus McFarland stands in 2026. Yes, he just signed a massive multi-year partnership with Polaris. That is confirmed. That is real. And by any measure, it is one of the biggest brand commitments in the history of his operation. But if you stop the story there, you are genuinely missing the most important part, because buried inside this partnership is a structural catch that could alter the entire DNA of what the Cletus McFarland brand has always been about. And here is the thing that makes this moment even more complicated. At the exact same time this deal is being celebrated across motorsports media, NASCAR is still pumping the brakes on letting him race at super speedways in the O'Reilly series. So what you have right now is a man getting bigger by the week, drawing television audiences, upgrading his facilities, signing major corporate deals, and the sanctioning body is still telling him to slow down. How does that make any sense? And more importantly, does it actually? We are going to work through every layer of this today. The Polaris deal, the catch, the Talladega controversy, the ratings data, the expansion plans, and what the full picture of Cletus McFarland's 2026 really looks like when you zoom out and see it all together. Cletus McFarland is Garrett Mitchell. He is a YouTube motorsports creator who built an audience of more than 4.6 million subscribers on the back of pure horsepower content, burnouts, builds, drag racing, freedom factory chaos, and the kind of gearhead energy that mainstream motorsports often struggles to produce consistently. But here is what separates him from most content creators operating in this space. He did not just build a following. He built an actual physical infrastructure around that following. He owns the Freedom Factory, a fully operational racing facility located in Ocala, Florida. He runs his own events, the Freedom 500, Crown Vic Chaos, and more. He has a team, a crew, sponsors, and now an active seat in sanctioned NASCAR competition through Richard Childress Racing. He is not performing as a racer for the cameras. He is actually competing, and that is precisely why NASCAR, RCR, and now Polaris all want a direct connection to what he has built from scratch. Before the Polaris deal gets the full examination it deserves, the Talladega situation needs to be on the table, because it is the backdrop against which everything else in his career is currently unfolding. Cletus was denied approval to race in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series event at Talladega on April 25. NASCAR reviewed his Rockingham performance and made the determination that they needed to see more progression before clearing him for Super Speedway competition. John Prost confirmed that Cletus is currently approved for ARCA, all truck races, and O'Reilly short tracks, but not super speedways in that series yet. Steve O'Donnell reinforced that position by stating the process moves race by race and that continued progression is what unlocks the next level of competition. That is the official position from NASCAR, and taken at face value, it is not completely unreasonable. Safety at super speedways operates under a genuinely different set of demands than short track racing. The pack speeds, the drafting dynamics, the split-second decisions required at those venues, all of it presents a different challenge. But here is precisely why the fan base is refusing to let this go quietly. At Rockingham, yes, Cletus had moments where the car was loose. He finished 6 laps down in the O'Reilly race. But he completed the event without wrecking the field and without causing chaos. And critically, earlier that same day, he ran 4th in the RCA East race at the same track. That is not a driver who is embarrassing himself or the sport. That is a driver still in the learning process but actively doing the competitive work required of him. Meanwhile, NASCAR fans watch established professionals spin, wreck, misjudge corners, and take out multiple cars every single weekend without facing any kind of probationary restriction or approval review. The double standard argument is one that practically writes itself. And when you layer in the fact that his presence is actively generating measurable television interest, the frustration from the fan base only grows louder and more pointed. According to reporting that cited Sports Business Journal's Adam Stern, the Rockingham O'Reilly race on the CW drew a 0.65 rating and 1.165 million viewers. That represented an increase of 12% in rating and 11% in audience compared to the same event 1 year earlier. Across the first 7 races of the season, the series was averaging 1.282 million viewers, up 3.6% year over year. Cletus did not drive every one of those numbers by himself, but he is demonstrably part of the wave pushing them upward, and NASCAR would be operating against its own interests to treat that as irrelevant when making decisions about his future role. On April 7, Polaris officially announced a multi-year partnership with Cletus McFarland and his motorsports community. The official language from Polaris stated that the deal will put Cletus and his team behind the wheel, and that from operations and content to experiences at the Freedom Factory, Cletus will be powered by Polaris. Reed Wilson, president of Polaris Off-Road Vehicles, described Cletus as bringing the kind of energy, passion, and authenticity that reflects what American motorsports is really about. Cletus responded in his own terms, saying Polaris fits his world of freedom, horsepower, and a good time. One thing needs to be stated clearly before going further: Polaris announced a multi-year partnership, but neither side has publicly confirmed a specific dollar amount. The multi-million-dollar framing that has circulated in headlines is hype language, not a confirmed reported number from either party. This is a real and significant deal, but accuracy matters. Now, here is the catch. And this is the part that almost every summary of this story has glossed directly over without examination. This is not a race sponsorship. It is not a logo placement on a fire suit or a decal on a door panel. The Polaris deal is woven directly and explicitly into the entire Cletus McFarland ecosystem. Their own official language lays it out clearly: operations, content, experiences, Freedom Factory activations, fan engagement. Multiple trade publications reinforced exactly this framing. Powersports Business described the partnership as one that opens the gates for content and experiences with his community. Off-Road Extreme framed it as Polaris entering the energy of the Freedom Factory to amplify builds, events, and direct fan involvement. Read that framing carefully. Builds, events, fan involvement, operations. This is not Polaris purchasing advertising time. This is Polaris purchasing an embedded lane inside the daily functioning of the entire Cletus operation. And that is simultaneously the exciting part and the genuinely complicated part of this story. Cletus McFarland built his brand on independent momentum. Real shop culture. No corporate filter applied to the content or the events. The Freedom Factory feels the way it does to its audience because it has never felt like a polished, sanitized marketing package. It feels like a person who loves cars went and built his dream facility and invited the internet along for the ride in real time. Now, a major corporate partner has active fingerprints on the full operation. That does not automatically make things worse. Polaris is a culturally natural fit. Off-road vehicles, American motorsports, high horsepower energy, the connection is genuine and coherent. The benefits are already showing up in real, tangible form. A YouTube launch tied to the partnership showed Cletus surprising the Freedom Factory crew with an entirely new fleet of Polaris off-road equipment. Reports confirmed the partnership is actively helping upgrade equipment and infrastructure at the Ocala facility. That is not abstract public relations language, that is new machines and a stronger operation for the crew on the ground right now. But the catch remains real regardless of those genuine benefits. When a brand is embedded at the level of content, events, equipment, fan experiences, and the full operational ecosystem, that brand carries influence over the direction of all of it. The shape of Freedom Factory weekends. The way content gets produced. The structure of future events. All of that now has a corporate partner actively present in the room. That is a meaningful evolution for a brand built specifically on the absence of that dynamic. It is a natural fit, yes, but it is still a fundamental shift, and anyone who follows independent creator culture should understand that clearly, even while celebrating what the deal brings to the table. Here is what consistently gets lost in the noise of the NASCAR approval debates and the Polaris announcement. Cletus is building his racing business from multiple angles simultaneously, and he is not waiting on any single body to determine the pace of that expansion. Short Track Scene reported that he is planning to add a pro late model division to his Crown Vic race events, following his purchase of a straight rail late model from Port City Race Cars. The plan is to build that into the event structure and expand what Freedom Factory weekends can offer to both competing drivers and attending fans. That decision tells you something specific and important about the long-term strategy at work here. This is not a person standing at a closed door waiting for NASCAR to open it. This is a person building additional doors himself and bringing his audience through them. Content, facility events, grassroots racing, off-road experiences, late model development, and eventually deeper sanctioned opportunities. That is a layered motorsports business being constructed from the ground up, with a massive and engaged audience already attached to every element of it. Richard Childress has publicly praised the value Cletus brings to the sport. Steve O'Donnell has acknowledged the desire to see continued progression. NASCAR's own television data indicates his involvement is contributing to audience growth. And now Polaris has validated the full operation with a multi-year corporate commitment across every dimension of the brand. The only lane where forward motion is currently measured and restricted is the Super Speedway approval track. And even that is described publicly as a temporary hold on progression, not a permanent closure of the door. Here is a direct and fact-based read on what NASCAR should actually be processing right now. When a driver gets denied for a race, the standard pattern is that the story gets smaller. The attention drops. The coverage moves on to the next weekend. That is not what is happening in this situation. Every time Cletus encounters a roadblock in the NASCAR process, the story grows larger, more coverage, more fan reaction, more brand investment. That is unusual, and it is worth treating seriously. The argument for protecting the field is valid. The argument for requiring demonstrated progression is fair and responsible. But when a driver is completing races, avoiding causing on-track incidents, building his competition record, contributing to the sport's measurable TV growth, and connecting a new generation of fans to the NASCAR product at the same time, the case for accelerating the progression timeline is equally valid as the case for patience. The sport has an active interest in helping build this story rather than simply monitoring it from a distance. This is where everything in 2026 lands for Cletus McFarland. He has a confirmed, legitimate multi-year partnership with Polaris, and the real substance of that deal is that it reaches far beyond a traditional sponsorship arrangement into the daily operations, content production, event structure, equipment, and fan experience framework of his entire brand. That is significant, and the implications of it will continue to develop. At the same time, NASCAR is maintaining its position on Super Speedway eligibility in the O'Reilly Series, even as his races produce measurable television growth and one of the biggest names in powersports bets its brand on everything he has built. The trajectory here is not slowing down regardless of what any individual sanctioning body decision produces. If this is a story you are following closely, make sure you are subscribed to this channel so you do not miss a single update as it continues to develop through the 2026 season. Drop a like on this video if the breakdown was useful. It directly helps this channel grow and continue producing this level of coverage. And tell us in the comments, is NASCAR handling the Cletus McFarland situation correctly, or are they missing one of the most compelling stories in motorsports right now? Let us hear exactly where you stand.